Hey, Jess.
Testing 1, 2, 3. This is Sat. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
I couldn't get in from the link again. I had to go to the county website and go to the planning and zoning website and click in from there. I tried even doing the manual way with the information on the packet, and that didn't take me here either.
Yeah, I got in through the packet.
It's funny because I went to the website and couldn't get in that way, but got in on the packet.
Well, I'm actually surprised this is functioning because of the Azure outage. So I wasn't going to be surprised if this had to be canceled. So.
And it's all going to get so much easier when we get AI involved, you know.
So, I mean, Teams wasn't working most of the day on campus because of that outage. So I'm actually surprised that we're having a conversation right now.
What outage are you talking about, John?
There's a Microsoft Azure outage this morning that has been going on. I don't know if it's resolved or not, but we had classes that couldn't function with Teams. Teams wouldn't work. Like they couldn't access files. It was a global outage. It wasn't campus. It was everywhere.
Interesting. Our Microsoft, yeah, everything we were using Microsoft all day here worked fine for us. I was not aware. I was not aware there was any kind of outage at all.
Yeah. There's only a couple of us here right now.
Much easier to make decisions that way.
In a study session, but no quorum.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like there'll be a few stragglers that will be at the meeting, but not maybe the study session. All right. It's 4:00. Do we want to go ahead and get started?
You bet.
Absolutely, Madam Chair. If you all are ready, we are. I am showing. Let's see. I see Chair Burton, Vice Chair Wilson, Commissioner Best, and I see a whopping 3.
I see Commissioner Hayward.
Oh, you do? Okay.
At least
okay.
I think it is. His name is cut off on my list. It's Commissioner Ha. So I'm assuming that's Commissioner Hayward.
Hey. All right.
All right. Well, I think let's just go ahead since we don't need a quorum for the study session. Let's just jump into it.
Sure. Might as well jump in and give us plenty of time on a couple of these study session items. So, Chair Burton, Commissioners, welcome to your October 29th study session. I don't see that we have any members of the public with us, just staff and commissioners. So we will kick off with the items that we are reviewing in preparation for next month's public hearing. And a reminder, next month's public hearing doesn't fall within the month of November. It's always in that first week of December because of Thanksgiving. So your November hearing is December 3rd. And with that, our first 2 items here are being managed by Sophie Koza. So Sophie, if you would like to present the first 2 items, go ahead.
All right. So this first one is CUP 2555, Sage RV as a residence. The applicant is Rebecca Sage out of Camp Verde, Arizona, and the owner is Ox Holdings LLC out of St. Paul, Minnesota. The property is located at 694 East Wampum Lane in Red Lake, and the zoning is agricultural residential with a 1 acre minimum parcel size. And this request is to use an RV as a permanent residence on a 1 acre parcel in the AR1 zone. This is a vicinity map showing the subject's property highlighted in blue. It's a little less than half a mile east of Highway 64. And this is an aerial photo of the property. It's pretty heavily vegetated. And then this is their site plan. So their travel trailer is right here towards the center of the property. And then this is a photo of their RV on the site. For their citizen participation plan, they held a neighborhood meeting on October 21st, where 0 people were in attendance, and staff have received no comments on this case. Are there any questions?
Yep, Vice Chair Wilson.
Thank you, Chair Burton. Jess, I'm just curious. It seems we get quite a few cases where we're reviewing something that's already happened. And that seems a little backwards to me. Is that historically the way things work? Is there something wrong here with our process?
Great question. Vice Chair Wilson. So you have the legal rights to put your RV on your property if you own the property, and if it is a licensed and operable RV, you certainly have the rights to essentially park it on your property. The conditional use permit to live in it is a different thing.
Okay.
So that's usually when we see the RV on the property, that's usually what we're seeing. In the case of metal storage containers, it is not uncommon. It's actually very common that metal storage containers would be put on a property, and then the property owner discovers, oh, there's a permit required for that. And that's why we often see metal storage containers that are already on the property. So those two cases, yeah, that's we see them already on the property.
Okay.
Pretty often.
For the metal storage containers, there's probably, just a few sources for those that are up here in northern Arizona. I wonder, maybe we contact those sources so they can notify the purchasers or renters of those metal storage containers of those requirements in advance, and maybe alleviate some of the pressure that gets created as a result of that being already done. Thanks.
Great point. Absolutely. Thank you.
I would point out historically, I wonder about it as well. I think there are hundreds, if not thousands, probably hundreds of people living out on those lots. There are something over 8,000 lots out there in Valley, living in motorhomes without permits. And last couple of years, we've seen a couple every month, and I don't know what changed. I think it's good that we're seeing them. Conceivably, it might have something to do with fire protection. It's an interesting question that we might ask people in Valley about just what the social element is.
Yeah. A quick reminder on that: the zoning ordinance pre-2019, the zoning ordinance only allowed you to get a temporary use permit. It's a 120-day. It's essentially the idea that you're going to be camping on your land in the summertime. And we knew, pre-2019 that as you pointed out, Commissioner Best, there are hundreds, if not more, of people in Valley, Red Lake, Kaibab Estates West, Alpine Ranchos, you name it, people, the more rural areas who have been living in their RVs. We created the process in 2019 when we updated the zoning ordinance. This was a lot of thought put into and putting a lot of flexibility, exerting a lot of flexibility from the county and obviously from the commission and the board to say, hey, we will make this a conditional use permit. There will be a permissible way. If that is your only way to be living on your land, we will make it a way to where we have some checks. We want to see what you're doing. How are you doing your power? How are you hooking up your water? And what are you doing about your wastewater? And at least there is a permissible way to do it instead of every single one of those just being an irretractable code enforcement issue. There is a way to get permitted, essentially. Lots of pros and cons, no doubt. Lots of pros and cons, but at least there's a way to help people get permitted.
All right, are we ready for the next one?
Yep.
All right, so this one is CUP 2556, Eaker Metal Storage Containers. The applicant and owner are Teresa and Robert Eaker out of Mesa, Arizona, and the property is located at 18275 Flat Tank Road in Westwood Ranches out near Williams, Arizona. And the zoning on this property is general, which has a 10-acre minimum parcel size. And the request is to have 4 8x20 metal storage containers on a 75.73 acre parcel in the general zone. And this is a vicinity map showing the subject property. This one on the left, the property is highlighted in blue, and there's a more zoomed out version on the right, which shows the property as a red dot. And then this is an aerial photo of the property. And this is their site plan. Since the parcel is so big, they weren't exactly able to show everything to scale. So the storage containers are these dots. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then they have a couple shed structures as well. And this is a photo showing the color of the metal storage containers. It's a little hard to see, but it's described as a dark green. And for their citizen participation plan, they actually held 2 meetings, one on September 29th and one on the 30th. And one person attended one of those meetings and had no concerns, and staff have received no comments. Are there any questions about this one?
Vice Chair Wilson.
Is there no residence on this property?
There is not, no.
So is this commercial storage or
They describe it as personal storage, mostly for agriculture tools and other things. But yeah, they don't live on the property, but they're doing work on the property.
Because it looked like it was heavily forested, so I wouldn't imagine much like farming activity.
Right.
Okay.
I can find out more about that.
Look forward to hearing about more of that next month. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, I'm not seeing any. Let's go on to number 3.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. This case is the Wicked Welding Manufactured Warehouse Design Review, DRO 25005. In this case, the property owner is WW Loop LLC of Flagstaff. The applicant is Garrett Reynoso of Flagstaff. The location of the property is at 7019 Loop Road, and that's within the Donny Park Timberland Fernwood Plan Area, which is why the DRO is required. The zoning is IH 6,000, that's heavy industrial, 6,000 square foot minimum parcel size, and the property size is 10 acres. And the request is design review, a DRO, which means design review overlay, for a 20,000 square foot manufacturing warehouse and an attached 1,914 square foot office building. It also includes landscaping, lighting, and signage. This is a vicinity map showing the subject property out here on Loop Road. This is Donny Park, and this is Timberline up in here. This is Townsend Winona coming down. Excuse me. And this is a zoning map. So this is this heavy industrial area up on Loop Road. I think most of you have been through there probably. So it's this big kind of rectangular shaped area with some of the heaviest, it is the heaviest industrial area in the county. This is a aerial photo showing the subject property. It's entirely vacant. There's a residence down here, and this is a Western Trust. This is a site plan. So you can see the road coming in, and then here's the building with the office attached. These are some elevations showing the proposal. This is a really large building. Of course, it's a manufacturing building, a manufacturing warehouse. So it is a large building. You can see it's kind of grayish in color. And this is the attached office. The attached office is actually stucco. So it doesn't quite look like that in this elevation. I'll have other elevations for the case later. This is the proposed sign. You can see the really heavy beams they put around it. This is welding and fabrication, so it's kind of appropriate, kind of showing what they're doing there. And this is their conceptual landscape plan. They have a few trees existing. These are junipers and maybe piñons here. And then they propose to put in more piñons and some cliff rows for shrubs. With that, I'll take any questions.
Anybody have any questions? All right, I'm not seeing any.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Let's go on to 4.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Item 4 is the 10-year update to the Flagstaff Regional Land Use Plan, and you all will be hearing it next month as an amendment to the updated comp plan. So, Melissa, if you're ready to give a presentation, go ahead.
Yep. Good evening, Commissioner. I'll share screen.
Lost the share.
Oh, hold on a second. Let me get it.
Are you in Jamaica?
No, that's funny. I have been getting a few comments about that. Sharing a name with a hurricane. No, I'm not in Jamaica. I'm here in Flagstaff. So thank you for Jess for that introduction. And yes, this case, it's PZAM 25003. This is would be an amendment to the county's comprehensive plan to adopt the updated Flagstaff Regional Land Use Plan. And then just kind of as a reminder, this is out of our comprehensive plan, just to orient us to the location of the boundaries of the Flagstaff region, which over here on the right side, the purple boundary is identical to the Metropolitan Planning Organization transportation boundary. So it matches that, and it includes then the different communities within the county that this document applies to. And so just again, just to set the stage here, the regional plan functions as a general plan for the city of Flagstaff and as an amendment to the county's comprehensive plan, much like an area plan. And so then that would be applied, just like you heard the case for the Donny Park Timberline Fernwood area plan. We use it in a similar fashion. And then this slide shows what communities specifically this covers. So Donny Park, Timberline, Fernwood, the complete area plan, all of the Belmont area plan, the Kachina Village area plan, the Mountain Air area plan, and portions of the Fort Valley 180 scenic corridor, and a very small portion of the parks area plan. It actually includes just a very small portion of a private parcel up in the parks area. So I just wanted to mention that. I think screens are frozen. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
I hear you great. And seeing your
great.
presentation.
Yeah. Okay. So just moving on. Just wanted to
ask a quick question, Melissa.
Yeah.
You said that it impacts, sorry if you can hear my dog. You said that it impacts part of a private parcel. Is it like half of a parcel? Is it like
in
is the
parks
person going to have like some randomly weird like lot that only half of something is applied to? Like, I just like to know the context of that, because that's a little awkward.
That's a great point, and I'll have more information at the hearing. We've looked at that, and it actually would include a few parcels. So if it touches a portion of a parcel, then it would include the whole thing. You know, these parcels in the parks area are, I believe, they're G and AR zoning primarily. So, you know, it's not going to affect them really in any significant way, because normally on residential parcels, a conditional use permit or something along those lines is not a frequent request.
So if you could expand, and next time is fine, on why we didn't just like redraw that boundary so that we left it out altogether rather than some weird hodgepodge thing going on.
So yeah, I'm just going back to the visual here. So it's a really specific boundary, the Metro Plan boundary, and you can see up in the upper left corner that it touches part of the Parks Area Plan. Most of this is Forest Service.
Yeah, it's just strange to me that it's just a square box and doesn't reflect the actual like land division.
You know, and I, you know, when the boundary was established, and I don't know when exactly the boundary was established with Metro Plan, but there, you know, the GIS maybe wasn't as accurate. I'm not 100% sure what the tool was used to draw the boundary, but we'll get more details like that for the hearing.
Okay, I think Vice Chair Wilson has a question real quick, and then we'll let you continue, Melissa.
Yeah, related directly to what you're asking, when you showed this slide, Melissa, my first thought is, why do we stop just outside of Belmont? As development has continued in the parks area and density continues to increase out there, as part of all of this process, was the boundaries of this plan ever reconsidered?
You know, that's a great question, and not for this update. Again, this matches the Metropolitan Planning Organization boundary. This is the same boundary that Metro Plan uses for all the transportation studies and funding. And so that boundary has not changed. That would have to be then, you know, updated through Metro Plan, as well as the city. So I don't believe, and I don't recall, maybe Commissioner Haywood would recall if there was a conversation about that early on during the meetings with the regional plan update. But I'm not recalling that was an item of discussion to amend the boundary.
Are you required to follow the Metro Plan boundary?
There's no requirement, but that's
Okay,
the boundary that's been utilized.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. Go ahead and continue.
Great questions, thank you. So again, this is how it's applied to both the city and the county, adopted as a rather updated as a joint effort. And just what we discussed, the county communities that it applies to. And just kind of as a reminder, about 2/3 of the county's total population of about 150,000 people live within that regional plan boundary. So when you look at the size of the county and, you know, realizing where people live, about 2/3 of the county's entire population live within that boundary. And so I just want to talk a little bit about the structure of the regional plan, because it is laid out somewhat differently, well, very differently from the current regional plan, and then somewhat differently from the county's comprehensive plan. Chapter 1 is the introductory chapter, talks about how the plan is used, how it is amended. And then chapter 2 really talks about the core and the complementary priorities. And we'll talk about those in detail in a moment. Chapter 3 is where all of the goals and policies for the plan are listed in that one chapter. Chapter 4 is the chapter that has the future growth illustration, or the future land use map, if you will, has the character descriptions, and then the density ranges and more about future development and how that should look going into the future. So there are illustrations in there, there's text, there's zoning compatibility tables, a lot of detail about the future land use map and how that is applied. And then chapters 5 through 11 are similar to what you would consider the comprehensive plan chapters. So all of the different detailed chapters like water resources, the parks, recreation, open space chapters. So they're really considered the implementation chapters. And then that is where you find a lot of detailed information about the topics and also the action items to implement those. So let's dive into some of the specifics. You all, I think I've seen this graphic before. So the regional plan has 6 core total, basically core priorities. 2 of them are considered the core priority. One is housing attainability and equity, and the other is climate action. And this graphic is in the plan. And then complementary priorities are a walkable mixed-use community, natural and cultural resources, a healthy economy, and resilient public services and facilities. So these work together. And the way, if you read in chapter 1, for major cases, like a rezoning case, then the idea is that the case would meet one of the core priorities and then also have certain elements of the complementary priorities, meeting the goals of those with the project. So we'll look more closely at what the goals are for each of these priorities, but this is a good graphic to kind of illustrate how those were laid out. And so again, looking at the housing attainability and equity core priority, these are the 4 goals that illustrate how that will be achieved. And there's one specific to housing attainability. There's another neighborhoods and equity goal, which talks about development revitalization of sustainable inclusive neighborhoods. There's cost of development goal, that the city and county diversifies financial strategies to provide for needed infrastructure development, including maintenance enhancement of an existing infrastructure. And then the 4th one, the parking goal, you'll see is distinguished to be city only. So some of these do have city only or county only as the responsible entity, because, you know, some of these are really specific for development in the city, and then others apply just to the county. So this was the core priority goal for housing attainability and equity. And then the next one is regarding climate action. And you can see in the first 2 that, again, the climate action goal has been split between city only, which talks about the city maintaining and achieving carbon neutrality. And for the county, so this would apply just to the county supports and advances goals and policies designed to address and respond to climate change. So you can see how this was laid out, and to make a distinction, because the city and county are quite different in this regard. And then it goes into energy goal, and where we're looking at increasing and diversifying renewable energy, growth management, where future development and infrastructure in the region use land and water resources efficiently. A transit goal, where we looked for opportunities to increase public transportation, which, as you know, expanding public transit out into the areas of the county is a real challenge, and it is really primarily limited by funding issues. And then a multimodal transportation goal, where we're looking to provide a variety of transportation modes to give people different options for getting around. So then we move into the complementary goals, and this slide shows the total 3 goals each, one for the walkable mixed-use community goal, and then the other for natural and cultural resources. So for walkable and mixed-use community, there are 3 main goals: development pattern goal, that we're looking basically to support attainable housing in a resilient and sustainable community. And then a transportation system goal, again, focusing on a complete transportation system that does provide that access, good mobility, and efficient transportation options. And then accessible parks, recreation, and open space. For the natural and cultural resources side, we are looking at a natural resource stewardship goal, and you might start seeing how some of these actually align and are very complementary to the comprehensive plan vision and values, and then the goals in the comprehensive plan. There's a cultural resources goal where the region is maintaining and enduring a unique sense of place that celebrates diverse ecosystems and community heritage. And then again, an outstanding open space and parks goal. So we're looking at, actually how the design of parks will be improved to preserve open space and provide all those recreational opportunities. And then the last slide shows the complementary goals of healthy economy and then the resilient public services and facilities. And it's interesting in terms of the public services and facilities, that's the longest chapter in the county's comprehensive plan, and it's also quite detailed in the regional plan. But back to healthy economy, so there's a goal for healthy economy, pretty much speaks for itself. There's an employment district goal, and then again, this is looking to accommodate and anticipate the needs of future employment and manufacturing. The goal is specific to the airport, where it's looking to support expansion of Pulliam Airport. And then a freight and rail goal, where it's recognizing, that the existing railroad system through the region provides needed infrastructure and also support for delivering of manufacturing and exporting of goods. And then you can see on the right side for resilient public services and facilities, there are 2 water resource management goals. The first one related to the city only, because the city does need to maintain that 100-year water adequacy designation. And the county is not a water provider, so the county does not have a similar designation. But we are, as a county, hoping that water demand and water supply is balanced for social and economic well-being. And this is very similar to the county's water resource goals and policies. There's a goal related to water quality and stormwater management, looking to maintain our watersheds and stormwaters. And obviously that's been an important topic to be updated with both the regional plan and comprehensive plan, given the wildfires and then the subsequent flooding issues that have occurred. There's a goal specific to resilience, where the region works across all government operations and services to reduce the risk of natural and human-caused hazards. There's an infrastructure goal, where we're looking for the region to provide sustainable and equitable public service facilities, services, and infrastructure systems. And then finally, a public safety goal, where within the region, looking for high quality emergency response and public safety services for law enforcement, fire, medical, and ambulance transport. So that is looking at the core and complementary goals of the regional plan. There are, and I'm going to lose count here, I believe 29 goals. I might be 26 goals total. And then 99 policies that go with that. So I have not listed the policies here, but they are in the plan, and we'll get into a little bit more detail at next month's or December's hearing. Wanted to focus a bit on looking closer at the future growth illustration, because you'll all remember that one of the main differences with the regional plan and the comprehensive plan is that the regional plan does have a future growth illustration, or a future growth map, future land use map, if you will. And we'll look in some detail at this, but I wanted to just point out a couple of things in the legend. So if you look on the right side, and you can see there's urban center, suburban center, and rural center. The spots in the county that are designated that kind of raspberry color are the rural centers. And what those do, those are the locations, and if you look in the current regional plan, of what are called today activity centers. And then this is updated. This map is different in that it's parcel specific. The rural centers that are shown in that raspberry color are basically all commercial zoning. And they do follow the existing activity centers that are in the regional plan. So nothing has really changed, long and short, in the county, other than it's now identified parcel specific to mimic the zoning on the ground. And then you can also see, if you look down here, under the neighborhood designation, this peach color, a lot of the communities in the county are designated as rural neighborhood. If you zoom in, Kachina Village does have some suburban neighborhood areas, which is, again, based on existing zoning, as does Belmont. So when you, I do have a PDF of this that I'm going to pause and bring over so we can zoom in a bit more on this. The zoom function on this is a little bit clunky, but I wanted to show some more specific. Can you see the PDF? Do you see the different image now?
Yes.
Okay. So one thing to note, the airport overlay zone is this gray hatching, and you can see where that is in this area. Pulliam Airport has recently expanded their safety overlay zone, and that is to accommodate for new safety standards in terms of flights. And so that does touch, you can see, a bit of the county. This is the Mount Dell subdivision. And, you know, looking for development in that area to stay very low density for obvious safety reasons. The other thing to kind of really look at are these different hatched lines. So looking again at the legend. This kind of darker, thicker hatch line is the urban growth boundary. And then the lighter gray dash line is the city of Flagstaff boundary. So you can see where the city boundary is out here, for instance, and the urban growth boundary is much tighter within that. So, you know, that's, I think, is something important to understand. In some places, it does line up. In other places, it is tighter. So the urban growth boundary is intended to identify areas that should be limited for growth. And this is something on this map to kind of, if you know, really zoom in and start to look at those areas, then because the city will not be expanding city services to areas outside of that urban growth boundary. And there are specific policies in the plan that speak to that. There will be, it's not ready yet, but there will be an interactive map on the city's website where this will be zoomable, if you will, to a parcel specific view. And then the next images that I wanted to show is some more detail from the plan. So we talked about the different chapters, and in this is in chapter, I believe, this is in chapter 4, where the future growth illustration map is, where it gets into more details, where, for instance, we talked about the rural centers. There is more detail about what type of connectivity is desired, what type of housing is desired, the other design considerations. So you can kind of see the images, you know, of, for instance, this is Stony Park. This is what rural centers are ideally modeled after. And then you can see over here, it's just a sketch image of some potential changes where there are improvements in maybe some park and ride opportunities, some more public transit if that funding were to ever be available, some additional sidewalk and bike lane safety improvements, and then maybe some active temporary uses. So you can see the top and bottom image. So the plan contains this level of graphic details to further illustrate for planners and decision makers and the public and developers what would be anticipated with changes for a rezoning case or other types of discretionary applications that a project would need to address.
Can I ask a question really quick?
Yeah.
So they wouldn't be looking to do the lower one without having a better transportation setup in place. Because right now everybody is car dependent. We do not have public transportation. So I don't see the bottom one working by reducing parking for people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, the goal is not to reduce parking, so it doesn't address county parking standards, if that was part of your question. But this would be, you know, the vision to achieve. And
I love the multimodal inclusion
mhm.
and creating safe spaces for bikes and pedestrians. I look at this and I see like a massive reduction in parking.
Okay.
The way
Yeah,
it's
no.
represented in the graphic, like if somebody wasn't like looking at our existing code and how many parking spaces we require for commercial buildings and stuff, if you were just looking at this at face value, it looks like, oh my God, they're taking all our parking away.
Right. Well, that's an interesting eye on this. And if you read the kind of detail, it talks about the building forms are conceptual and do not reflect specific architectural styles, massing, or details. But it doesn't, yeah, it doesn't take away.
I read the little subtext there, but I'm also looking at this from like just a normal person's perspective who's not necessarily going to read the fine print. And I would look at this and go, okay, this makes sense for the heart of the city. Doesn't make sense for where I live in, you know, Timbuktu.
Right. That's understandable. You know, and again, this is something to achieve if the standards work for the county zoning ordinance. So, you know, if there was potential funding for more transit, these improvements could be possible. But again, that does depend.
You'll put a light rail through all the main arteries and you're golden. So it looks like Vice Chair Wilson has a question or a comment.
Ms. Shaw, also on that lower drawing, while we've created some safe spaces for cyclists and pedestrians, we put picnickers at great risk, it appears. And so I would suggest that drawing needs to be updated.
Commissioner Wilson, yeah, this is out of the adopted regional plan, and I understand your point. The picnic tables were intended to illustrate an active temporary use, and then you see there is a sidewalk added here, which would be an additional buffer.
I get the sidewalk and the bike path, but the picnic tables are probably not what we want to encourage.
You know, I think it's intended to illustrate a temporary pop-up, if you will, and this could be, you know, potentially encouraged at any of our existing rural centers where if there was a food truck and they had a temporary use permit, they may put some temporary tables out there, but because it is conceptual, then all of those safety details would be worked out at the permitting phase.
But aren't we supposed to be using these drawings to help inform our decisions?
You are, but at a conceptual level.
So if we can, is there a limit to how far conceptual goes to our interpretation? All right, I'm gonna just stop.
The modifying these drawings at this point might be a challenge. We did not draw these, so that would be something that I'll look into some additional detail to see what other phrases are in the plan that would, you know, make it clear to a reader that this is simply an idea that is to be achieved, and that it doesn't include all of the, it certainly doesn't include all the setback standards and things like that.
All right, thank you, Ms. Shaw. Go ahead and continue.
Great questions. And so when we think about how this is implemented, there are action items, and I've only included a few here. So, but again, this regional plan is implemented in a similar way as an area plan or the comprehensive plan, where the goals and policies are applied to rezoning requests, subdivisions, conditional use permits for the city. They will look at it even more extensively if there's an annexation request. They use it heavily in their capital improvement programming. But for the county, you know, we will look at it certainly from your perspective in terms of when these cases come in front of you. there are also action items, and there are a few listed here that have, there are more in the plan, but there are a few listed here that specifically include the county. And so at the top right, action in chapter 5, this action item talks about the city and county working in collaboration to address housing needs within the region and identify potential funding sources for affordable housing and other services. So it talks about the county being a partner with the lead to be determined. And it has additional discussion about, how that could come about and what might be needed to move that action item forward. So these action items are within each of the different chapters. In chapter 6, which is the transportation chapter, this action item is looking to establish rural transit service within the region, which is consistent with county land use plans. Again, ideally, Mountain Line would be the lead on this, working with the county and other agencies and other governments to maybe pull together funding to, at some point, see public transit available to places out in the county. And then in chapter 7, which is the water resources chapter. I'm sorry, no, that's the natural resources chapter. Resource stewardship and resilience, where it talks about coordinating basic plans, programs, and resources. And so this is, I took this from the public hearing draft, and there may be some additional edits from the city council adopted version, but this was what was available to snip out. So we'll have that by December 3rd, that final version of the regional plan will be available. So we'll have that for you then. So these are just some examples of implementing action items that help to implement the plan in addition to the goals and policies. And so then talking about the adoption schedule. So you may have followed that the city council adopted the regional plan on October 9th. So it is then not effective until city residents vote on it during a ballot initiative, which is scheduled for May of 2026. So it actually will not be fully implemented for the city residents until that is decided by that initiative in May of 2026. But the city council did vote unanimously to adopt it and send it forward to that ballot initiative. The county hearing, so we have scheduled this now, for public hearings with the Planning and Zoning Commission at your next hearing, which is December 3rd. And then depending on the outcome of that meeting, we have it on the schedule for the Board of Supervisors on January 20th, 2026. So if you're looking at how this is lining up, then it's potential that the county could adopt this and have it it would actually be effective prior to the city having an adopted regional plan. And I'll just back up here. So we'll talk a bit next about the county schedule for finishing adoption of the comprehensive plan. But just so you know that the comprehensive plan is on the public hearing schedule for the board on November 18th. So this would all fall into place following that hearing. And then with that, I'm happy to answer questions and comments and take notes for additional information that you would like during your December hearing.
Vice Chair Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Shaw, I was wondering, the energy goals for renewable energy, does that include nuclear power?
I will need to look in more detail. I don't believe it specifically discusses nuclear, but it doesn't prohibit it.
Okay, thank you. Why is the airport a county goal. It's really all entirely run, owned, operated by the city, primarily within the city limits. Why is the county involved in that?
Oh, it's an interesting point. In the comprehensive plan, we also discussed the Pulliam Airport because it is an important transportation hub for the county as well, because it delivers people obviously to the region. If you look again at the overlay zone for the airport.
I noticed the gray hatching. Yeah, I saw it.
So, that's something that, as, being part of the region, that if we have projects that come up in that Mount Dell area, we'd want to consider that overlay zone for safety reasons.
That's also controlled by federal regulations too, with respect to airport safety and things like that. So we wouldn't have any. On the plan, it shows that Camp Navajo is listed as a university/research area. Is that accurate?
Well, if you read the details of that designation, it would include the use of Camp Navajo. So that's just a general title that was identified for many different types of land uses. But I will make sure that we look at that detail next month.
Yeah, because that's state-owned and controlled, and again, out of the control of the county. So that could lead to some confusion. And both the city and the county list housing availability as kind of priority number one. Yet you just explained to us that the city has developable land outside the urban growth boundary that they're not going to develop. And it seems completely inconsistent to me that we have land that we could develop into housing that is close to the urban centers that exist today, but we're somehow in this plan cordoning those off and prohibiting development.
Well, the urban growth boundary doesn't prohibit development. What it does,
it discourages it, right?
Well, so those are
Can you go back
areas
to that map?
Yeah, hold on a second.
So there's significant areas there that are, whoops, there it is. There's a lot of land there that could be developed.
Well, the areas in green are actually federal lands. So these are, they're not private. They're not available for development at this point. So yeah, if you look at these sections, these are federal lands. And this is federal land. So, or it's parks and open space. If you look at, again, at the legend here. So really, the land that's identified within the urban growth boundary, would have services, water and sewer primarily, obviously. And then most of these areas outside are not land that is available for development, or they're county land, where services wouldn't be extended outside the growth boundary to county land.
It would seem to make sense to find ways to make that developable rather than draw a line that says we shouldn't develop past this line if additional housing is really the key.
Well, I know, go ahead. Sorry.
I understand, just making an observation there. And finally, the last question I have is the May 2026 city election. Is that going to be a special election just for the regional plan?
I believe it is. Mm-hmm.
So they're going to spend all the money to conduct a special election?
Well, it's actually required by statute. So state statute requires that for cities and towns, a general plan be approved by voters. So that's
but they could do it in the November election.
There's a timing issue, and I don't know all of the details about how far in advance that has to be scheduled. County elections obviously helps to schedule that. And so I believe the May 26th was the closest available date after adoption by the city council.
Thank you.
Looks like Commissioner Best has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of questions. We have statements about water quality and stormwater, and of course that relates to forest treatments. And I know we're making good progress on that action, going out 180, very impressive. Is there a statement in the regional plan about forest treatment for fire, unrelated to stormwater and flooding? You know,
Yeah,
what
so
just happened on the North Rim was not related to flooding, but it certainly did a lot of damage. Are we focusing as well on fire protection as we are on stormwater and flooding?
Commissioner Best, I would need to pull up the specific policies, and I will for next time when
Okay.
you have this at your hearing. But there are many policies in the regional plan that address forest treating the forest for fire prevention,
Okay.
because that was an important topic in this update.
I wonder if are we allowed to make this as an amendment to the comprehensive plan? Are we allowed to make amendments to the regional plan as we accept it? Are you suggesting any? Have you heard of any issues from the supervisors where they might want to make an amendment?
Commissioner Best, I have not heard of any potential amendments to the version that was just adopted by the city council. Staff is recommending adopting the same version.
Okay.
And it's been a project that the county has been involved with throughout the entire update process. So we'll do an analysis of the goals and policies, and at this point there aren't any that come into that are not aligned with the comprehensive plan, our current and our updated comprehensive plan goals and policies. So we're not making any recommendations for changes.
But we could in the future, if we had, if we sort of went in a different direction in a particular area, we could make amendments. Is that correct?
Oh, the amendment process is clearly laid out in terms of if there's an amendment. Absolutely. Yes. So if there's in the future a needed amendment to the regional plan, much like an amendment to an area plan, there's a process that's outlined in the comprehensive plan for how to do that.
Okay. Also, is Fort Tuthill outside of the airport safety zone?
Let's take a look.
We don't need to spend too much time on it, but maybe by next time,
Yeah, I believe it is. I'll have to zoom in and look real specifically at that.
Okay.
At that location.
And also just to address what Commissioner Wilson was talking about with areas outside the development zone of the city. I know that there is sort of tension within the plan about the tension between building, housing, and sprawl. And I think that the plan in general wants to increase density to solve the housing problem and not have sprawl solve it. And I that's always a give and take, and a tough thing to balance. But I think that the regional plan generally is on the side of more density, less sprawl, and that's why that's there.
That's it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I want to jump in on there because I have some more detail on that based on my time on the regional plan committee. There just wasn't very much enthusiasm from the folks who live right on the city boundaries to have annexation. As you can see, there's really not, there's not much opportunity for it, right? Outside of Donny Park and my neighborhood. So it was just something that, I don't think it really bothered to address. It was too sticky. It wasn't really going to get us very far. Kind of what the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. I think, in terms of the sprawl conversation, I think realistically we focus a lot more on those areas that are outside of the city limits, perhaps within the metro planning region, but not contiguous to the city. So, Belmont, Kachina, Munns Park, Winona, those types of areas where we're really seeing folks, commuting into the city from those spaces, right? So our sprawl is kind of jumping over the kind of green boundary, right, that's created by the Forest Service and going into those areas. And I think kind of as a corollary to what Sat was saying, driving for higher density allows us to put potentially lower priced units within the city limits and hopefully make some stuff available for folks so they're not making those drives.
All right, Sat, your hand is still up. Does
Thank you.
anybody have any other questions or comments for Ms. Shaw? All right, I'm not seeing any. Thank you. And Mr. McNeely, are we ready to move on to the next?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. And actually, Melissa will be taking all the community development department update items, the 3 items here that are the long range planning items. So, Melissa, if you want to cover those.
Yes, can you hear me? My screen is apparently freezing right now.
Yes.
Yeah, and your camera's not frozen.
There we go. My share screen is unhappy at the moment. Let's see if we can do this though. Okay. What was the next item, Jess?
So, community development department update. First item would be, I'm sharing my screen, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What we just covered is the Flagstaff Regional Land Use Plan update and the process for that. Item 2 is our plan moving forward for the public hearing adoption of Flagstaff Regional Land Use Plan as an amendment to the comp plan. As we discussed, hearing with the Planning and Zoning Commission, next month's hearing, December 3rd, and then with the board, January 27th is the target date as of now. And if there's nothing else on those items, on the Flagstaff Regional Land Use Plan, then the way ahead, the dates for the comp plan.
Thank you. And yeah, my screen sharing ability has frozen. But can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
So, yeah, I was going to share a flyer, but I'm not able to do that right now. But we are having an open house tomorrow night here in the Thomas Auditorium from 4 to 6 on the comprehensive plan. So we have as I mentioned earlier, the Board of Supervisors public hearing on the comprehensive plan is scheduled for November 18th, beginning at 6 o'clock in the evening, but we are having an open house tomorrow evening to invite the public to come and look at the plan, talk to staff, give us comments that we would then take forward to the supervisors. And if any of you care to join, we're happy to have you there. Just let us know. So in case we don't want to have to post a notice of quorum. So, but I can send you all a copy of the flyer when my screen is actually functioning again. But I think that's the update on the comprehensive plan, unless there are questions.
Vice Chair Wilson.
I'm going to try to attend that open house tomorrow. So I don't know if any other commissioners are, but if you are, maybe we should let staff know now so that we can avoid the conflict.
I am as well. This is Sat.
Anyone else planning on joining tomorrow for the open house?
Then we should be good.
Yeah, we're past the 24 hours. It begins at 4, so 4 to 6. We can't post a notice of possible quorum at this point, so.
So nobody
thank
else
you.
is allowed to come.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you for letting me know. Appreciate it.
John Ruggles is planning on it, so call him and see what
You can talk
see
to
what he
John
gleans.
outside the building.
Yeah.
All right. If there's nothing else on community development up on those items, then Board of Supervisor update.
Thanks, Madam Chair. So on October 14th, the Board of Supervisors heard the zone change subdivision up in Valley, the McLean Meadows Arcana RC Resort Commercial and MHP Manufactured Home Park zone change, along with the subdivision, the 151 lot workforce housing subdivision, and the board approved it as recommended. The next thing that the board is going to hear, what we just discussed, is the Envision 20. Actually, should be 2045, not 2040, but the comp plan update, and that's for this next month. And then, of course, we've discussed when the Flagstaff Regional Plan, when we anticipate forwarding it to them after your hearing on it. So that is it for the board, Madam Chair. Any questions?
I'm not seeing any. Does anyone have anything for Commission and Staff Roundtable? Vice Chair Wilson?
I know it's been a while since we've had a retreat, and we've had a number of new members join our board, and so I would like to toss out there that it may be time to consider something, March timeframe or something, give us some time to schedule it. And if we do that, one of the things I would like to discuss is, Commissioner Hayward and I both had a brief conversation about it the last meeting, what the real object and goal of our commission is, so that everyone better understands that. It would be a great place to talk that out a little bit more. So I'd just like to toss that out there for everybody's consideration. Thanks.
Okay. Commissioner Best?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that I went to a presentation and a community conversation at the hospital today about the hospital move. They are looking at 5 sites, one of which is outside of the city. They're not revealing the location of those sites. Well, one would be stay where they are, 2 would be Fort Tuthill. The other 3, they're not revealing the location. It's very interesting. And if you, there's another one tomorrow at 6 p.m. at the McGee Auditorium at FMC. And quite an interesting conversation. I'd recommend it if anyone is interested. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Leslie?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know if this is the right place to put this, but for tonight's public hearing, I think there's a mistake on item 2, CUP 25049. The supervisor district, shouldn't that be District 3, not District 1? I guess that's more of a question for Jess.
That's actually a great question. Commissioner Leslie, hold on one second. Let me get the map right here. No, that actually is District 1.
Yeah.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah, District 3 goes just to the east of KEW, Kaibab Estates West. But most of Kaibab Estates West, essentially, and Westwood Ranches is actually in District 1.
Okay, thank you, sir.
But great geography lesson for us all.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, is there anything else for roundtable? If not, we can take a little break and reconvene at 5:30. All right. Let's take a break.
All right,
then.
thank you.
We'll start right at 5:30. Thanks. All right, it's 5:30. Are we ready to get going, Mr. McNeely?
Chair Burton, yes, staff is ready to kick off the hearing.
Okay.
Jess, did you see that note to make the agenda bigger?
No, thank you.
All right, if we're ready to get started, we'll start with the meeting rules and procedures. Welcome to the October 29th, 2025 meeting of the Coconino County Planning and Zoning Commission. Cases will be heard in the order they appear on the agenda. Following the staff presentation, the applicant and/or the applicant's representative may address the commission. As an applicant, if you agree with the staff report and have no additional information, please feel free to keep your comments brief. Any relevant comments are welcome. Following the applicant's presentation, I'll make a call to the public. If you wish to address this case, please state your name and the address. We ask that your comments be limited to 3 minutes or less. Comments must be relevant to the case. Please address all comments to the commission. No matter how strongly you may feel about a case, all comments must be respectful. After all interested public have spoken, the public comment portion will be closed. Discussion will then take place amongst commissioners. Decisions of this commission regarding any zone change or preliminary subdivision plat approval are referred to the Board of Supervisors as a recommendation. All other case decisions are binding unless appealed to the Board of Supervisors. If you disagree with the commission's decision, you have 15 days to appeal. Please contact the Community Development Office for appeal procedures. Due to the virtual nature of this meeting, I will be doing a roll call vote of the commissioners to ensure accuracy for the record. We ask that you please mute your microphones and turn off your cameras. Additionally, the message function of this platform is for communicating technical difficulties only. It is not for case discussion. Thank you for joining us this evening and actively participating in our county planning. All right, first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. McNeely, will you please lead us?
Yes, thank you, Chair Burton. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Chair Burton.
Okay, thank you. Second item is approval of the minutes from September 24th, 2025. If there are no corrections, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the September 24th, 2025 minutes as presented.
Okay, do I have a second?
I would second.
Okay, I have a motion by Vice Chair Wilson, a second by Commissioner Leslie. All those in favor, Commissioner Hayward? Commissioner Hayward, you're muted. Okay, we'll come back to him. We'll come back to Commissioner Hayward. Commissioner Walsh?
Aye.
Okay, Commissioner
Excuse
Best?
me, I have to clear my.
Okay. Commissioner Best?
Aye.
Vice Chair Wilson?
Aye.
Commissioner Tohi?
Aye.
Okay, Commissioner Leslie?
Aye.
Commissioner Hayward?
Sorry about that. Aye.
And this is Chair Burton. I abstain. Motion passes. All right. Third item on the agenda is a call to the public for items not on the agenda. Is there anyone in the public who wishes to address the commission for items not on tonight's agenda? Okay, not seeing any. That brings us to our public hearing portion of the evening. Our first three cases are pretty standard for us, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of combine them all. So that's case CUP-25-045, case CUP-25-049, and CUP-25-051. All of these are recommended for approval. Do any of the commissioners wish to discuss any of those three cases? Okay, not seeing any. Does the applicant or their representative of any of the three cases wish to address the commission? Oh, Commissioner Best, you have a question?
I do have a question about CUP 25049. On page 26 in that area there, there's a picture of the property and also a plan of the property. Does the picture show an existing house on the property that is not on the plan? Get to that page.
Jess, could that page be displayed here?
Sure.
It's page 26 in the report.
It does look like there's a structure on there. Is it perhaps a shed?
And then page 27 shows the plan. And it seems to be, you know, maybe a shed and several containers possibly. And so we might just ask the applicant if those are going to disappear and
Yeah.
Well,
So,
yeah, go ahead.
so
Jeff.
Commissioner Best, the containers are in with the application, and Sophie Koza with our staff is managing this case. So Sophie, from the image we're looking at, if there's any explanation you could give as to what you're looking at, I believe what we may be seeing here is essentially like a large outdoor canopy, and not a house. Probably this image right here.
Yes. So when we did the site visit, there wasn't a house on the property, but maybe Mr. Bogart, the applicant, can speak to it in more detail.
Yeah, that structure that you guys are referring to does not exist anymore. It's not there. It was just a carport is what it was. And it has since been torn down. And the two containers that are underneath it are part of this permit process that we're working on tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, does that answer your question, Commissioner Best?
indeed it does. Thank you.
Okay. Does any of the commissioners want to discuss any further on this or either of the other two cases? Okay. Does the applicant or their representative wish to address the commission, any of them from these three cases?
This is Michael Sayers. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Which case are you referring to?
25-045. I just joined the meeting just a couple of minutes ago. I tried to get you on Teams, but I wasn't able to do it, so I thought I'd call in.
Okay, are you the applicant?
I am.
Okay, did you have it? It's recommended for approval. Did you have anything you wish to address the commission about?
No, I just wanted to sit in on this meeting just in case there was any questions or anything like that.
Okay, all right. I think we're good, but we'll let you know if we have one. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, is there anyone in the public that wishes to address the commission on any of these three cases? If so, please raise your hand. I'm not seeing any hands raised. I do see some unmuted phones, but I'm not hearing anything. So I'm thinking there's no public comment on any of these three cases. Okay, so we'll close it to public comment. I'll entertain a motion to approve CUP 25045, CUP 25049, and CUP 25051. If there's no modifications, I'll take a motion.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve CUP 25045, 25049, and 25051 as presented.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, so I have a motion by Vice Chair Wilson and a second by Commissioner Best. All those in favor, please say aye. Commissioner Hayward?
Aye.
Commissioner Walsh?
Aye.
Commissioner Best?
Aye.
Vice Chair Wilson?
Aye.
Commissioner Tohi?
Aye.
Commissioner Leslie?
Aye.
And this is Chair Burton. I also vote aye. All three are approved. All right, let's head on to the next case, which is case number 4 on the agenda. And that is CUP-25-052. Staff, please go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. This case is the Valley Canyon Water Tank CUP. It's a utility facility. It's CUP 2552. In this case, the property owner is the Collins Family Trust. The applicant is Rob Oldowski Williams. Location of the property is at 317 High Grove Road in Valley. The zoning is general. That's 10-acre minimum parcel size zone. The site size is 3.6 acre, is a 3.6 acre portion of a 40.88 acre parcel. So the request in this case is renewal of CUP 07061 for a water tank. Again, a utility facility as identified and defined in our zoning ordinance, and with modifications to allow an expansion of the facility with an additional water tank, standpipes, and commercial water delivery. This is a vicinity map showing the subject property. You can see Valley here. You can see the intersection of 180 and 64, Valley and Valley Airport. This is High Grove Road that runs through here. And this is a zoning map, so you can see the zoning in the area. The MHP was approved just last year, I believe. This is the subject property. This is the AR zone in Valley. And this is a commercial zoning here. And this is an aerial photo showing the subject property. You can see the existing water tank here, approximately 500,000 gallons, and some of the buildings developed on it here. And then these are 2 ponds. They take, or stock ponds. They take overflow from the water tank, and they're used for various purposes I'll discuss in a second here. So the background on this is that the well was established on this site in 1994 to serve commercial businesses and the water hauling business. The owner has a few commercial businesses in the area. In 2007, there was CP 07061 was approved, and it mentions it as a 434,177 gallon water tank. The applicant calls it a 500,000 gallon tank. So I'm just using that because that's what was specifically identified in the CUP. In 2017, the CUP expired without being renewed. So the current development proposal is to install another 500,000 gallon water tank and water distribution infrastructure as well. They also want to install 2 standpipes. One is for potable water that would be placed in trucks and taken out for delivery. And there's also infrastructure in the ground, piping that sends the water down into the valley and to serve some commercial purposes. And then the other standpipe would be non-potable water. That's the water in the stock tanks, and that's used for commercial, emergency services, wildlife, and rancher use. So they can fill up trucks and take it out and water livestock, water wildlife, etc. The proposal is also to allow commercial water sales on the property, and there would be 2 commercial vehicles stored on the property. These are the big water trucks. There's no signage or lighting requested. This is a site plan showing the area. This is the non-potable standpipe. This is the, potable standpipe. And this is some facilities like the well house, etc., storage areas for this facility. Right here is the existing water tank, and right next to it would be the new water tank. And this is a rendering of what it would look like, what it looks like now, and what it would look like with the new water tank. So you can see there'll be 2 water tanks And you can see trucks drawing water out of the stock pond and the facilities that are here now. And this is a picture of the facilities that are here now, and an RV that's being stored on the property. And this is, when we were out there right on cue, this guy was drawing water out of the stock pond for non-potable uses. This is the existing water tank on the property. The new one would be painted the same color. And in terms of citizen participation, neighbors were within 1,000 feet were invited to a neighborhood meeting on September 2nd, 2025. No one attended the meeting or provided comments, and staff hasn't received any comments on this either. And this is staff analysis. The proposed CUP is consistent with the comprehensive plan that supports a sustainable water supply for human communities while protecting natural systems. The proposal is also consistent with the Valley Area Plan policies that indicate CUP should consider the impacts of the proposed use on area residents, particularly noise, dust, and visual impacts. I do want to point out this is not in the Valley Area Plan area, although it is right across the street from it. So we wanted to go ahead and look at that as well. And very importantly, the project would also provide an additional water supply to serve the Valley area that is currently expanding with new commercial and residential development. As the commission has seen, there's some development right up the road from here. And so it's definitely a needed source of water. These are the findings of fact for a conditional use permit, and those have been addressed in the staff report. And with that, staff recommends approval of CP 2552 with the recommended conditions. And with that, I'll take any questions from the commission.
We have a few unmuted people and it's creating a little noise. So if those of you in the public could please mute your phones. Do any of the commissioners have any questions for staff? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Does the applicant or their representative wish to address the commission this evening on this case? If so, please go ahead and unmute or raise your hand. Okay, I'm not seeing any, and they're not required to. Is there anyone in the public who wishes to address the commission on this case? If so, please raise your hand. If you don't have the raise hand option, please unmute. Okay. Then in that case, I will close it to public discussion and open it to commission discussion. Does any of the commissioners have any discussion on this, or are we all good with it? Are we ready to make a motion? Do you want me to go around the room?
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay, well then let's move forward with it.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve CUP 25-052 as presented.
Madam Chair, I'd like to second that motion.
All right, I have a motion for approval by Vice Chair Wilson and a second by Commissioner Walsh. All those in favor, Commissioner Hayward?
Sorry, I'm being so slow. Aye.
Okay, Commissioner Walsh?
Aye.
Commissioner Best?
An enthusiastic aye.
Vice Chair Wilson?
Aye.
Commissioner Tohi?
Aye.
Commissioner Leslie?
Aye.
And this is Chair Burton. I also vote aye. Motion passes unanimously. All right, the next item on the agenda, number 5, is case number AM-25-002. Staff, please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Jess McNeely with staff. You guys seeing my slide presentation okay?
Yes, we are.
All right. So, as you all remember, we've had, I believe, 3 in a row study sessions on this item. So this is new to you, or this is not new to you. You are familiar with this information. Doesn't appear we have a little bit of public on the meeting, so we will try to give a good overview for the public hearing in case any public wants to understand this proposed zoning ordinance amendment regarding accessory dwelling units, ADUs. So as we've discussed, this is a new state requirement, essentially, that counties, much following what was previously approved under a state statute for cities. So the county portion came a little later, essentially requiring county zoning ordinances to increase their ADU allotments. Here at Coconino County, we were ahead of a few of our peers in that we already did allow for and regulate ADUs. So it's just simply updating what we already have in our zoning ordinance. That HB, for anybody who's interested, was 2928. It was approved back towards the end of May. And the county is required to update our zoning ordinance no later than beginning of the year. And we're on track to do that. So if we go back to the zoning ordinance, and we have a stated purpose in many of the sections of the zoning ordinance, and sometimes they help us think about the why. And the ADU ordinance, excuse me, the zoning ordinance ADU section, I believe it's 3.4, has a purpose, and that stated purpose is to increase housing supply, achieve housing affordability goals, promote integrated conservation design, and the use of sustainable building techniques, while preserving single-family residential and neighborhood character. So that's our stated purpose, and I think from our study sessions we've been trying to stay aligned with that purpose. As we've discussed, you've seen these graphics before. We all know that in single-family zoning, if this were a site plan, just a sketch site plan, typically what we're used to seeing is one house, one home, as this site plan illustrates. Our zoning ordinance currently would allow in all residential zoning districts one ADU, one accessory dwelling unit, in addition to that primary home. Under the requirements of HB 2928, we will be required in all residential zoning districts to allow one attached, and that's why we're showing this one little ADU here actually physically attached to the primary home, and one detached ADU. So 2 ADUs in residential zoning districts. And in residential zoning districts on property that is 1 acre or larger, we would now be allowing a second detached ADU. So a total of 3 ADUs and the primary home, the 1 attached and 2 detached. So you add those up. And as we've discussed, the state statute allows the county, if it chooses, to require that second detached ADU to be deed restricted for affordable housing. We've discussed what the definition of affordable housing is, and it's written into the draft amendments that's in your packet, and we could jump to those if anyone has any questions about what's written directly into the draft amendments. That definition simply is that it's rented to households who are under 80% at or under 80% AMI, that's area median income for our area. And it is rented to them for not more than 30% of their gross income. So we've discussed previously the positive sides of this, the pros, that the community does need affordable housing. That was certainly something we heard a lot in all the outreach for the comp plan update and the regional plan update. And another upside of deed restricting this second detached ADU is it would limit short-term rentals for that second detached ADU by deed restricting it for affordable housing. The cons, the negatives associated with deed restricting this second detached ADU, third ADU, is it would be tough to administer. It would be more work for the county. It would be a combination of HHS, that's the Health and Human Services Department, who would be income qualifying people. And then when our department, as the building permitting agency, was permitting this second detached or third ADU, we would be attaching a deed restriction to the permit, and then we would be managing this process, keeping a roster, keeping a reporting process in place to ensure that if that deed restricted ADU was being rented, it's being rented properly. That's additional work, certainly, for the county. And as was discussed as a negative, this certainly is less flexibility and less property rights for a property owner, fewer property rights for a property owner who is choosing to do this second detached or third ADU. We can tell you in the study sessions we did with the Planning and Zoning Commission, it would appear that the Planning and Zoning Commission preference is to try out the deed restriction as allowed by state statute. And in the work session that staff did with the Board of Supervisors, their preference definitely, they were loud and clear about their preference. If the county is given the ability to deed restrict this third ADU, the board was supportive of pursuing that direction. And as we've discussed, the county can go more restrictive now, early, and this restriction could be removed in the future if it's found to not be necessary. If there's some reason in the future that we would see it, we as a community, as the county, would see it in the community interest to remove that restriction. That restriction certainly could be removed in the future. And as we all know, under Prop 207 in Arizona land use law, you cannot make zoning ordinances more restrictive, so we could never go the opposite direction. And just for an understanding of what is 80% of AMI, we've shown this slide before to show for our county and actually two of our peer counties to the right of our county, household size and what 80% of AMI income limit would be. So a few other things that we would want to let you know: there are setback considerations, and that's in the draft zoning ordinance amendments in your packet. The side and rear setbacks for ADUs is reduced to 5 feet, which would be common, which would be similar to our smaller lot zoning under our zoning ordinance. There are size and separation considerations. Currently, the county's zoning ordinance limits accessory dwelling units to half of the size of the primary dwelling. That would increase under the state statute to 75% of the primary home size. So our zoning ordinance also has a maximum separation distance between the ADU and the primary home. That separation distance, just out of practicality, is being increased. And we do have waivers, by the way, that are very easy to work with for good reasons. It's written clearly into the zoning ordinance for when the size or separation distance doesn't work. There are certain instances when a waiver can be granted actually by staff. It's an administrative adjustment process. And just for your edification, FYI, the county is pursuing some pre-approved designs in partnership with the city that are sustainable designs through a ADU model home plans program. We've gotten some input from the commission on those ADU model plans. That's something the county's pursuing. If those plans get approved first by the city as meeting city code, and then follow on by the county, that's our intent to follow that process. We would have a library, so to speak, of pre-approved plans for some ADUs that could save people some money in paying for plans, and it could save them some time in having pre-approved plans to start developing their ADU. So that's just an aside, has nothing to do with the ordinance amendment. There are water and wastewater considerations that we've heard certainly from the commission in our discussions. So for any new home that is built, and including ADU, there's a required confirmation of available service of what is going to be your service for water and wastewater. So it's pretty easy to follow our existing process for these additional ADUs that will be permitted. When we look at the applicable comp plan goals and policies, these are in your staff report. Clearly, the comprehensive plan has has a goal and a policy here on your screen. We have the goal to ensure a range of housing choices in a variety of communities. They're well designed in terms of character, natural environment, and availability of services, and a supporting policy that the county encourages affordable housing efforts, and it will work to create incentives through zoning ordinance revisions that would promote a variety of housing types as well as accessory rental units. So what is proposed here certainly aligns with comp plan applicable goal and policy. These are the findings straight out of the zoning ordinance for approving a zoning ordinance amendment. These are actually the exact same findings for a zone change that you have seen before, and the recommended responses in staff being able to make those findings, and these are in your packet. So with that, staff can make the findings and recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission forward a recommendation of approval for AM 2502 to the Board of Supervisors. I would be happy to pull up the draft zoning ordinance if that would be helpful, but that does include, as we've discussed, the proposed deed restriction on the second detached or third accessory dwelling unit for properties that are 1 acre or larger. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, we'll start with Commissioner Best.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If you could pull up page 74. And let's see here. Number 7. It says, whenever possible, accessory dwellings shall not be located in front of the primary structure. That seems a little amorphous, a little indefinite. And I will make a proposal that we say accessory dwelling units shall not be located in front of this primary structure without an approved waiver or variance. I don't know what the proper word waiver or variance would be, but in other words, who's going to determine what is possible or not? Mm-hmm. And I think that is somewhat important. I'm very enthusiastic about ADUs. I think they're the best way to get density into a neighborhood while retaining neighborhood character. But having an ADU sticking out in front of the house is contrary to neighborhood character. So I would not want it to happen unless it were absolutely necessary. And beyond that, I'm very enthusiastic about this. I think it's a great idea.
Thanks, Commissioner Best. And I would point out that this language is as it has been in our zoning ordinance for quite some time. In a traditional, I don't know what we want to call traditional county, but in a subdivision where lots are laid out in perfect rectangles, generally speaking, this problem takes care of itself. This is not an issue that comes up. However, we have a lot of really unique, especially when you get into larger parcels, acreages, situations in the county with some very odd shaped lots and parcels, and often corner lots where there's difficulty determining, hey, what feels like the front for character. So in a I completely concur with you that the character of a neighborhood would be more traditional, more what we expect when the primary home is in the front of a lot and a accessory dwelling goes behind it. And that is what happens 90+% of the time. This was written this way. And again, this is this hasn't been an issue, hasn't been a problem in administering this as it's written, and has been in place for probably a good 15 years, if not longer. So I would just point that out. That would in a way be what you're proposing, Commissioner Best, would be decreasing flexibility, increasing restriction over what has been in place previously.
And would staff make that decision? Who would make the decision whether or not it's possible?
Staff works with the applicant on that. And again, it very seldom, if ever, comes up. So we have many lots in the county where you have to fit things based on topography, based on vegetation, based on on-site utilities, water and wastewater systems, where you can fit them.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Vice Chair Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jess, could you roll up to item number 1 there? So as far as changing this to adding the requirement that it be affordable housing, I think there's some discussion warranted on that particular topic. I heard what you mentioned about the supervisors. It is my contention that any additional housing is going to be good for our community, whether it is restricted to affordability or not, because it'll be occupied. And if it's occupied, then something else won't be that may be more affordable. If instead we adopt this as you have it written here, we're telling people, go ahead, build that second or third ADU, but oh, by the way, you're not going to be able to make nearly as much off of it as you could otherwise. And I think we're actually defeating the goal of trying to add additional housing. So I would like the commission to have some discussion and debate whether restricting this one unit to affordable housing actually discourages what we're trying to accomplish here in the first place, and that is adding the additional housing. I personally am opposed to restricting it to affordable. I suspect most of us, if we were told, hey, you have some extra money, you can build an ADU. Okay, great, I'm going to do that. And you're going to look at the cost benefit analysis. You're going to say, yes, I can actually make some money or cover the cost of the mortgage to do that, whatever. Once we say we're going to limit how much you can make, and oh, by the way, what does that what happens when, you know, the family of 4 that's living in that affordable unit all of a sudden gets a pay raise and now they're bumped up above what that limit is? Now we have to boot them out, even though they may love living there and the tenants may be great tenants. But because it is deed restricted to affordable, they can't stay. They would have to leave. I'm not a big fan of that scenario either. So I think restricting that is not in the best interest of our community, and would like to have some discussion on that. I have a couple other thoughts too, but maybe we should start with that one. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Well, I'll start the discussion if you would like. Do we need to go in, Jess, with this amendment, do we need to go in our normal order? Because if so, we need to hold off on discussion until after I've asked if any of the public have anything to say.
Great point, Madam Chair. Way to chair the meeting.
I may have jumped the gun there.
Staff's giving a presentation. The commission is asking questions and taking comments from staff. We do have to open the public hearing at some point here. Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do have, if no other commissioners have any questions for staff at this time, I do have a question. So I'm reading in here, and so you were saying that it's changing from 50% to 75% size, correct?
Mm-hmm.
It looks like it's actually downsizing what we currently permit, like, because we have don't we have a 50% up to 1,200? And it looks like we're going to go to 75% up to 1,000 for detached and up to 1,200 for attached. Am I reading that correctly?
So Madam Chair, the only thing that is changing from our existing ordinance is what is struck and then in bold and in color. So
Okay.
the only thing that is changing is the 50 to 75% of the livable area of the main dwelling. And we already had the cap of 1,000 square feet for detached,
Okay.
1,200 square feet for attached. The state statute actually is consistent with 1,000 square feet for detached, but because we already, in a way, we kind of incentivize, we're almost encouraging attached by offering more square footage with the attached. We can leave it just like it was. So your cap is 1,000 square feet for the detached and 1,200 square feet for the attached. And honestly, a lot of ADUs basically push it. That's the limit they go to, because many primary homes in our county are over 2,000 square feet.
I'm in the minority. My house is teeny. I do like that we're giving more flexibility there. I really do like that 75%. I never liked that 50% cutoff, especially for people like me who live in a significantly smaller house. If I wanted to add something, I would be like shoebox. So.
The great thing to point out, though, and we have this conversation daily with our customers, is aside from that previously 50, now 75% of the livable area of the primary dwelling, capped at 1,000 for the detached, 1,200 for the attached. The line above it is very key. You are guaranteed 600 square feet of livable area, regardless of the size of the primary dwelling. So if your primary dwelling is only 800 square feet, you can still do a 600 square foot ADU.
Okay, so how does that work though if your building envelope is not big enough?
That's a natural limitation.
It's a natural. Okay, so yeah.
And sometimes people go up.
People
get the square footage by going 2-story.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Do any other commissioners have any question for staff? All right. I'm not seeing any, so I'm going to open it up to public comment. Since there's no applicant to discuss this case, we'll open it to public comment. Does anyone in the public wish to address the commission on this amendment proposal? Not seeing any. Okay. We have a really little group tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and close public comment, and now we'll open it up to commission discussion. And I'll just go off of the order that I have names written down here, and everyone can chime in on Vice Chair Wilson's proposal. And we'll see where everybody stands. So let's start with Commissioner Hayward. Do you have any thoughts?
I'm wholeheartedly agree with Vice Chair Wilson on this one. I think the goal is simply to get more units. I think we get more units by making this as easy as possible. I haven't seen much success with affordable programs run on a kind of much smaller local scale in general. That's definitely true for programs within the city. Large impacts are made, through larger programs, Section 8, HUD, finance properties, things like that. I can see how on the surface doing this kind of restriction looks like you're doing the right thing and looks like you're having the right impact. But in reality, I think what you're going to get is close to nothing. And so realistically, we're really just restricting this to, 2 units instead of 3. And I'd like to see as many as possible. So I'd be in favor of removing that requirement, if that's something the rest of the commissioners are willing to do. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Walsh.
Ooh, I have mixed feelings about this. I encourage the affordable housing initiatives. And I feel like some of the natural restrictions are going to be septic systems for each ADU. You know, they're going to run out of space for that, or probably water. But I support if you have an extra ADU on your 1+ acres, that it be low income. I just do. There's just not enough low income housing right now. So that is going to restrict how many get built. I realize that. But that's kind of where my thoughts are at the moment. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Best.
I would leave it the way it is. And my thinking is a couple of points. First of all, we're trying to balance the neighborhood character with more units, more density. 2 ADUs on a lot plus the main house is a lot. You're starting to notice that in the neighborhood. A 3rd ADU is definitely chipping away at neighborhood character. And I would think that it would be worth it only if it were affordable. And having said that, I'll vote for this either way. But I think as Jess said, we could take another look in 3 to 5 years and see what's going on out there. I mean, one issue that I'm thinking about doing this myself, the electricity issue is also a big one. You start trying to run another 200 amps to your property because you've run out of amps, and it's very spendy. So I'm not sure how many of the 3rd that we'll see either way. But I think it would be a good idea to leave it the way it is and reassess in a few years. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Wilson, do you want me to come back to you and let the other commissioners say their piece?
Sure.
Okay. Commissioner Towhee.
I think I have mixed feelings about this too, but I agree that we do need some sort of affordability. And I think it's something new, something that hasn't really been tried. And I think that I don't know, I think we should give it a try. So, I mean, there's always changes that can be made, but I would support it. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Leslie.
So I am really in agreement with what Commissioner Walsh said. I was sitting here listening to everything, and I am mixed on it. I think it is a good idea, but Commissioner Walsh stated everything that I was thinking. But ultimately, it's workable, and if we need to make some changes in the future, I think we could look at that. But as it sits right now, I would be okay with it right now. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Vice Chair Wilson, do you want to hear my thoughts, or would you like to say your piece again?
Absolutely. Here, what do you got?
Okay. So I'm kind of coming along. I 100% agree with some of what Commissioner Best said. So what I am most concerned about, and I realize that putting this restriction in place will significantly reduce, possibly eliminate people building that 3rd ADU. And I am in favor of that at this time, because I feel like we don't want to just like have an explosion of all of this build happen, and then we have completely like demolished what Flagstaff is, like what the county areas are, what the community characters are. I mean, I'm seeing that with all the windmills. I think they've gotten, we approved all these and then we didn't really understand the whole impact until they were starting to be built. And we still have more in the pipeline, and it's just going to be nothing but windmills when you're, driving north. So, we didn't understand, I don't think, that at the time when we approved all those, the true visual impact that was going to have. So I would much rather proceed with caution. And because you can't go backwards, like you can't add the restrictions later. Like I would much rather start small and then see how it goes and reevaluate and potentially then remove. Because I have been sitting on this commission for a lot of years now. So I've seen some of the impacts of some of the stuff that we've done and all the stuff, like all the campgrounds that have got thrown at us. And so all of these different things, it's like, oh, these great lofty ideas. And then it's having impacts that we didn't necessarily anticipate. So I like a measured approach to things. And I would like to see, I honestly don't know how many people, like, you're going to have a lot of money to build 3 ADUs. It is ungodly expensive to build right now. So I think that I don't think many people are going to want to do it over 1, maybe 2. I think we're going to see a lot more generational family living like they do in really expensive areas like Hawaii because of the cost of living is just so high. So, and there's no limit on that. If a family, multi-generational family wants to build 3, they can build those 3. They just would have to, if they wanted to rent it down the road, it would be the deed restriction. But that's where I'm coming from, is I'd much rather take a measured approach and see how this plays out. And we can see it play out in larger cities like the Phoenix area and other areas in our vicinity, Prescott and places like that. And I'd like to see what happens. I'd like to put the restrictions in place, see what happens, and then reevaluate. So those are my thoughts. So I will turn the floor back over to you, Vice Chair Wilson, to
thank you, Madam Chair.
And
Mr. McNeely, Madam Chair just brought up an issue, multi-generational families. So if I'm living in my home and I want to start having family members live with me, and I start building ADUs, first an attached, then a detached, and we're having so much fun, we're going to invite Aunt May over too. So we're going to build a 3rd ADU. It would have to be affordable by code if we pass this the way that it is. And therefore, Aunt May would have to be qualified as affordable housing in order to live there. Is that correct?
No, that's thank you for bringing that up so we can clarify that. It would be deed restricted, that it could only be rented for affordable housing. So as the words right here says, deed restricted for rental as affordable housing. If you built that 3rd ADU and you're not, it would be deed restricted. That would be a part of the process if this is approved as written. So that deed restriction is recorded against that property. However, if you don't rent it, if you're not renting it to anyone, you're just letting your own family members live there, then you're not in violation of that deed restriction. So you could just use that. You could use that ADU for your own family. You just couldn't rent it. And a key thing is you wouldn't be able to get the short-term rental permit for it because it would be deed restricted as affordable housing. You can't get the short-term rental permit for it. And you just if you're not renting it, then yeah, you're not in violation of your deed restriction.
I can read that sentence to say it is deed restricted for rental as an affordable housing unit, meaning it's deed restricted for that use only and nothing else.
So maybe we do need to have that worded in a way that says for personal non-income based use.
Yeah.
I think there could be some clarification there if we decide to stick with this, because I could read that way. A couple of the other thoughts that were brought up. So a 3rd ADU, the concern about the community character that Commissioner Best brought up and Chair Burton mentioned, we got to remember that the person that originally bought this property and whose primary residence is on it is making that decision. So I think we have some built-in safeguards to the destruction of community character because you're going to be living there yourself in that primary residence, most likely. And I'll go back to what I started on. While I understand that this makes it sound like we would be building affordable housing, the reality is, I think we probably all agree, it's cost prohibitive to do that, and so it wouldn't happen, and therefore the lack of additional housing stock will continue to drive the price of housing up at accelerating levels. Whereas if, as Chair Burton suggested, all of a sudden everybody sees this opportunity and starts building ADUs, and we get additional extra housing supply, that's going to drive the cost to stop rising or, God forbid, actually go down because of an excess of supply. That'll never happen here. But I think we need to look at the way the market works and the way it responds. And the more housing units we have, the less expensive they are going to be. So anything we do that restricts the number of housing units there are is going to make housing more expensive. It's a simple supply and demand issue. So on that particular topic, that's the end of my conversation, but I do have a couple other quick questions on things.
Go ahead.
Okay. So moving down to, let's see, it was paragraph 8, if you could please, Mr. McNeely. Again, talking about community character, this is a new addition adding this 5-foot setback, and I'm opposed to that. I'm opposed to that primarily because now you have someone who's building ADUs on their lots that are inflicting those ADUs on their neighbor, on a neighbor who purchased a property that had existing residential setbacks and had the assumption that those setbacks would not change, and therefore their privacy, their view, their whatever it might be, is what it is within those existing restrictions. And I think we could actually get into a Prop 209 or 207, I'm sorry, issue here almost, because now we're changing the setbacks for someone else that's going to adversely impact me. If you say I can put an ADU right in front of my view of the peaks, now you've adversely impacted the value of my property. So I would advocate that ADUs are a great idea. We should do what we can to encourage them, but they need to be done in accordance with the existing setbacks.
So Chair Burton, if okay, if I
yes,
add some discussion. So Vice Chair Wilson, this item 8 here, this is specified from the state statute. We are required to allow ADUs a reduced setback. So for instance, just for illustrative purposes,
a reduced or 5?
Pardon?
A reduced or 5?
5. It's required to be 5.
Okay.
They call it out as 5. And just for
okay, then you've answered my question.
Yeah, and just to help alleviate some concern, you know, in our AR zoning, agricultural residential zoning, which can be anywhere, the typical are from 1 acre to 5 acre in the AR zone, the side setback is 10 as it is. Okay, so it's not that big of a reduction from what someone would already have the rights to in that zone.
Unless that 10 feet is my view of something, or
yes,
yeah,
yes.
So, okay, if it's state required, then this discussion's over on that one.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Was that it, Vice Chair Wilson? Okay.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. For people like me who have ill set zoning that don't even remotely conform, this would be a benefit for someone like me, because I'm RR1, but I only have a 7,000 square foot lot, so I have massive setbacks. So, okay. does any of the other commissioners have any discussions, questions, anything that they want to review? Because it sounds like I mean, we have a couple of commissioners who would prefer that we leave the affordability out of it. I do think we should go back and revisit, Mr. McNeely, the questionable verbiage of the affordable housing one, to say something along the lines of, let's see, so lots over 1 acre size are permitted a second detached accessory dwelling if the second detached accessory dwelling is okay. That the second detached accessory dwelling, if used as a rental, is deed restricted as affordable housing or something along those lines. That way it's like, if used as this purpose, then here is your restriction, like an if-then statement. If that makes sense to me. Or it makes sense to me, if that makes sense to you, like if what I've said makes sense, like an if-then statement that would leave it open to any other use you want to do. You want to turn that into an art studio, you want I mean, is there any, if we permitted, say, the extra, I'm just throwing things out here just to be devil's advocate, they wouldn't be using it as a rental, but could an owner use it as like a cottage industry on their property? Is that like, is that a total okay? Like they turn their little accessory housing unit into their own personal cottage industry?
It wouldn't be an ADU then, would it?
Like, yeah, well, that's what I'm wondering. Like because people have ADUs on their property, but they don't necessarily use them as housing. So I'm very curious. Like I'm getting into the gray area here, and I'm kind of just poking at the hornet's nest with a possibility. And I'm just curious. Oh, hey, our council's wanting to weigh in. Yes, please, Ms. Lane.
Oh, I was just going to suggest that I can just come up with a few recommendations on how to tinker the language to, I think, to like kind of solve your problem. I mean, I do agree. I think with what Vice Chair Wilson has said about it, I think someone reading this could interpret it either way, either as Jess or Vice Chair Wilson interpreted it. So I do think it might be important to add something like, is deed restricted to limit to either personal residential use or for rental as an affordable housing unit. Some language like that is probably what I propose, unless there's other, I think you guys are about to discuss whether you want it to be open to other kinds of uses like the cottage industry or whatever.
And that's what I wanted to get at, was I personally don't have a problem if they want to use it as a cottage industry. That's their office or something. But but that also could maybe be construed like fall under the personal use category. So, I mean, I guess that's my question. I guess, Ms. Lane, if we phrased it like you had suggested, does that still leave it open for the property owner to maybe claim it on their taxes as an office or something along those lines? Like, I want to make sure we're not being so crazy restrictive. That I think for me, it's more, I don't want it to be a vacation rental. So,
do you want me to?
Yeah, one clarifying maybe before we jump into how to tweak the language, Councilor Lane. First off, under our zoning ordinance, residential properties are not limited on how many accessory structures, not accessory dwelling units, accessory structures, sheds, barns, garages. There's no limit on those, right? And in certain parts of the county, you get a lot of those, and those are typically what are used for cottage industries. However, under the zoning ordinance, if you wanted to use your ADU your ADU, if it's an accessory dwelling unit, was permitted through the building permitting process to code as a dwelling. It has a place to cook. It has a bathroom. It has sleeping areas that meet egress. So that's the definition of a dwelling. So, but if somebody wanted to use it to run, you know, their cottage industry out of and not use it for living, they're certainly free to do that. I mean, that's, you know, our zoning ordinance already has that flexibility built in, and I don't see any change, you know, with this amendment that would take away that flexibility.
Okay, so adding like for personal use or an affordable housing unit, adding something, if we consider the cottage industry a personal use and we would still permit them to do. You have Vice Chair Wilson shaking his head no. And that's why I'm wanting to talk this out right now, because I think it's perfectly acceptable if they want to run their little, like, I don't know, craft business that they're putting stuff together and shipping it out, like, or that, because I mean, if you have a dwelling unit, you got a bathroom there, you got heat, you got air conditioning, you're like golden, and you're not working in a shed. So that's where I'm coming with this, because that still leaves people income, you know, generating possibilities without having to have people living on your property with you. It's that kind of thing. So Vice Chair Wilson, your hand is up. Please chime in.
My thought is if we start talking about cottage industry and anything else, we're mission creeping this outside of the scope of what it was intended to do in the first place. These changes are to address the state law changes that address ADUs, accessory dwelling units, and affordable housing. I think we get way too far into the weeds and gray areas, as you mentioned, if we start trying to address cottage industry or other alternate uses. I think legal counsel did a good job of recommending a change that would allow either a rental or private or personal use. And I don't think we need to go any further than that, because I think it gets too difficult and gray. Thanks.
I'm not disagreeing. That's why I said I was just poking the hornet's nest on things that could come up down the road. So I think if someone's little personal cottage industry is considered personal use, and we're not going to tell them, oh no, you can't do that. You know, I'm just looking at it from different angles, because I know ADUs aren't necessarily used for living in. So, but I do think that as long as we kind of have a general consensus on what personal use and affordable housing means, I think that the way council phrased it should work just fine. Do you agree, Mr. McNeely?
I agree. And I'm happy to, I'd like to hear council's perspective as well, because I know Angela really gave us a lot of help in really reading this HB when it came out. We've been seeing this as, if you are going to rent this unit, that's why there's a deed restriction, if you are choosing to rent it. There's nothing that compels. It would be really weird for a zoning ordinance to compel you, if you built this unit, to go out and have to beat the bushes and go find someone who you're in violation of the zoning ordinance and state statute, because you couldn't find someone who qualified as a, you know, the 80% of AMI. So that's the way we've seen it all. It doesn't compel you to go find someone to rent to that meets the affordable qualification, but rather, if you are choosing to rent it, that you're deed restricted to only rent it to someone who meets that requirement.
If council says that is the way it is applied, I'm totally good. So, Ms. Lane?
So I am less I think it's can be interpreted either way. What I'm concerned about is the next level of the deed restriction. Someone seeing this and they're putting the deed restriction on, they think they can only limit it this way. And once the deed restriction's on there, like, that's what it is. Like, we don't really have the power to regulate that anymore as the county, because it's kind of a personal property issue at that point. So I do think it might be, I think I do recommend adding that some extra language to clarify. That way, when we go to do the deed restriction, we know we can put both in, and then it's more open if that's what the commission wants. It sounds like that's what the commission wants, it to be more open. Because I think it could be, as written, can be interpreted either way.
Can you phrase it again? Like, give him the...
Yeah, so I just added in, and you can tweak this language if you want. You guys are the decision makers. I just changed the last sentence to say, is deed restricted to limit to either personal residential use or for rental as an affordable housing unit. Now, I said personal residential use. You guys were using personal use.
Like, do you
I
think
don't
that
think-
puts us into an area, if we specify personal residential use, that it's gonna cause potential problems down the road?
That's what I'm debating how residential could be interpreted. It might be better just to be personal use.
We're trying to make more housing. I have no
Yeah.
problem with residential.
Yeah, I'm afraid like personal use might be like too broad, but I'm also afraid personal residential use might be too restrictive. But I think personal residential use would imply anything that you're already able to do in your zone. If you're already able to do cottage industry in your zone, I think that would be considered, would that not be considered residential under? I don't know. I defer to Jess on that
It would
one.
be. It's it's accessory to residential. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I'm good with that. So, well, Commissioner Best has his hand raised.
I think if we go to cottage industry, we're sitting right back here evaluating it under the existing code.
Yeah, this is true.
And so we can deal with it that way.
Nope.
And that keeps the language simple.
I like it. Okay. Vice Chair Wilson?
I thought I may have heard council suggest that once the deed restriction is placed, it cannot be undone. And so we originally talked about, well, we'd like to err on the side of conservative right now and restrict this to affordability. If we did that, and let's say, 100 units were built, but then we said we'd really like to see 1,000, so we're going to remove that restriction. Would those 100 units then be restricted that way forever?
So I would say if we have a zoning ordinance change, we can give permission to remove that deed restriction. I don't think that should be any issue. I was more concerned with like, if we had it really limited in there and we didn't intend it to be limited, it could be interpreted by other people. Like it could be like if it went to a court might interpret it to restrict them more than we intended, and we wouldn't have much of a say in that private property action, right? Because we wouldn't be involved in it. So that was more my concern. But yes, I think we would be able to, if we change the ordinance to take away that restriction, there's no reason we can't go through and get permission and go through the process to remove those from properties.
And commissioners, just FYI, so you can have some comfort level with this, that is precisely what happened in Coconino County when ADUs were first allowed under the zoning ordinance. They were deed restricted, that they would not be rented, period. The whole intent was that it was only for your family's use, that you wouldn't deed restrict it. The county then realized, hey, this is not in the public interest. Like let's get rid of that out of that portion of the zoning ordinance. The county did that, and those deed restrictions did get removed. And I remember hearing about it my first couple of years at the county. People would walk into the door, you guys made me deed restrict this thing. No problem. Hey, we changed the ordinance. Let's help you get rid of that. And you're free to use that ADU any way you would like to now.
Commissioner Best, do you have your hand up?
Is a deed restriction necessary? We have a lot of restrictions that aren't deed restrictions. Can we just say dwelling is restricted? ...
Commissioner Buzz, that's a great question, and I want to ask Angela her perspective on that as well. I believe the state statute used the term deed restricted.
Okay.
And that is a way, that's just a way to manage, which unit on the parcel is deed restricted for affordable housing. It's just a way to manage the process. It's not uncommon in the development world.
Okay.
Go ahead. Did you have another question before I answer? Okay, no, okay. So yes, it is the language that's used in the state statute. I would recommend a deed restriction because I think it will be almost impossible to track otherwise. And I think we'll lose track of which ones are which, because community development in the county aren't necessarily the ones who are we're not like a housing authority who's going to be like overseeing things and checking things like this. If it's not on the title and on the deed, like I don't know if it's going to get recorded properly or show up in a title search, and that's going to make things really sticky, I think, in any sort of real estate interactions going forward. So I do think if you're going to do it, it should be deed restricted.
All right, thank you. All right, if we don't have any further discussion, then I think we're probably ready for a motion. Anybody have anything else, or are we good to move forward to recommend this to the Board of Supervisors?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve case number AM-25-002 as amended.
Do I have a second?
I second that.
Okay, I'm going to take Walsh as that one, Commissioner Walsh. Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Best to recommend adoption to the Board of Supervisors and a second by Commissioner Walsh. All those in favor. Commissioner Hayward?
Apologizing, computer issues. I vote nay.
Okay. Commissioner Walsh?
Aye.
Okay. Commissioner Best?
Aye.
Vice Chair Wilson?
Nay.
Commissioner Tohi?
Aye.
Commissioner Leslie?
Aye.
And this is Chair Burton. I also vote aye. Motion passes. All right. Next item on the agenda is a call to the public for items not on the agenda. Does anyone in the public wish to address the commission? I'm not seeing anyone in the public on the list, so I'm going to guess no. And we're going to call it good. So it is 6:47 and I'm calling the hearing to a close. All right.
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Really
Good night.
appreciate the discussion. It was so helpful.
It was good.
All right. Have a good night,
Good night.
everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good evening.
Bye.